Hi everyone. Well, we are here today to talk about my 2019 Ford F-450 Super Duty pickup. And yes, it is a true Super Duty pickup. This is not a chassis cab with a bed on it. We will talk later in the video about the differences between the F-450 pickup versus the chassis cab. But a little background on this. I bought this truck new in December of 2019. It was not a special order. I did search basically nationwide for it to look for the options that I was after, and this was essentially exactly those options. But I did buy it off a dealer lot. I bought it at a dealership actually in Erie, Pennsylvania. I am in southeast Michigan, close to the Thumb. So it was I don't remember, it was a 7-8 hour drive, something like that. But it is as I said, a 2019. It has is just an XL truck with the STX package, and we will get into that as well as some of the other options as we get later into the video. But we're going to go through everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, if there is any ugly. Would I buy it again? What would I change? What would I do different? And what should you look out for if you're considering an F-450 pickup? The benefits, the pitfalls, maintenance items, anything like that. So I hope you enjoy the video. I hope you enjoy some of these photos of the truck. I do work the truck, and I do use an F-450 for what it was intended for. So and stay tuned and let's take a look at this thing. So overall, I will tell you that this is going to be a positive review. I like this truck. If I was going to replace this truck today, I'll be honest with you, I think I'd buy the same exact thing, but maybe with some better options. So we're going to start under the hood, and I'm going to tell you my take on, of course, the 6.7 Powerstroke diesel. So as far as I know, I mean, you might be able to get the 7.3 in these. I don't really know. I would say the vast majority, I would guess 90% or more, are the 6.7. I'm going to zoom you out here. So, again, 6.7 Powerstroke. So in 2019, I'll have to look up, I'll put it on the screen, what the horsepower and torque numbers were. But if I recall, it was 475 horse and 935 torque. Obviously, those numbers have gone up since 2019, and the 6.7 HO for 2024 models or 23 models, whatever it is, bumped up to over 500 horse or at 500 horse and over 1,000 pound-feet. So measurably more than what it was 5 years ago. Problems I've had with the 6.7. To be honest with you, it's virtually none, guys. This has been a largely problem-free engine for 165,000 miles. Now, does it have a whole lot longer to go? Absolutely. Is 165,000 miles, while as much as that's not a pittance and it's something you can shake a stick at, it's not what we expect to get, out of a $10,000 option diesel engine in 2023. So, or 2019 as it were. So a couple things I have done to this engine. I have religiously changed fuel filters. I change at every other oil change. My oil changes tend to be around 8,000 or 9,000. And I change every other. I believe the recommendation from Ford is 35,000 miles. So I'm changing somewhere about half of what the recommended interval is. I think that's cheap insurance for a $50 or $60 filter set. And it takes about 15 minutes to do. So this is the underhood one. I won't show you the other one. It's on the frame rail as a panel filter, but I do change those religiously. So the couple things I've had to do, you can see how that plastic is a little shinier than that. I've had to replace that connector because it's stupid. I have also twice now, underneath that cover right there is the, I don't remember what it's actually called. What the heck is that thing? We're gonna have to put it on the screen. It's the blow-by filter essentially. in years ago, blow-by would have gone down a draft tube out onto the ground. Now it gets filtered through this filter media and recirculated back into the intake. So if you don't want to send a whole bunch of crap into your intake any more than it already is on a modern diesel, you need to change that filter out on a fairly regular basis. It will start to leak and seep, and you'll get a lot more smoke coming out of your regens. That's been my indicator anyway, that that's full. So we are on filter number 3 on that. I have done batteries in 5 years, so we've got a set of decas in here now. And then the last thing I did this summer, we won't be able to see because it's buried, it's a pain in the butt job, but the belt was starting to show a little bit of wear, so I did a serpentine belt, and at the same time I did tensioner and both idlers. This is a dual alternator truck. If you peek through, we can see an alternator here, we can see an alternator there. That is one of my list of options that I would absolutely get again. This thing is a jump starting machine. I believe it's somewhere around 430 435, I believe, combined amperage out of those 2 alternators. So this thing with 2 alternators and 2 batteries will jumpstart a very large truck pretty quickly. She's putting out a lot of juice, so that's an awesome upgrade. It's not a very expensive one either, a few $100 when you order a truck. The last thing I've done to the engine is this upper radiator hose had to be replaced. It did blow on me. It's a horrible design from Ford. You can see where it rubs against the air-to-water intercooler right there. You can see where I took some additional fabric here and installed it around so that it doesn't wear through, and I just try to keep an eye on it. But the rest of the hose was fine. It's just a really lousy design. I really feel like I might even add some more protectant there. I do change change fluids on a regular basis, guys. So this truck at 100,000, I take it back. I do transmission at 50,000. Ford recommends 100. I tow a lot. I bought this truck to use it. So I start to see a little bit of discoloration at 50,000. So I've elected to change at 50,000. So at 165 right now, I'm on my 4th case of transmission fluid. But at 100,000, I did everything. Brake fluid, coolant, both circuits. We've got 2 cooling circuits here on this truck, EGR cooling and regular cooling. So both coolants, brake fluid, as I said, power steering, both axles, transfer case. I might be missing something, but regardless, this thing gets fluid changes on the regular because I think that's cheap insurance on a truck that I want to keep for a long time. So in my mind, to the engine, I can't complain about this 6.7, guys. It uses a very minor amount of oil. I would say about a quart every 8,000 to 9,000 miles. Pretty minimal on something that holds 14 quarts or whatever it is. I'll show you here. All right, we're going to close that door so we don't have to listen to that. We'll turn down the cooling. Oh, we already got rid of our message. So you can see we are at 165,496 miles right now. If I go through and start talking about fuel economy, so if I go through, so we have 5,421 hours total, idling for 1,498 hours. That's horrible. It's the worst thing I can do to this engine, quite frankly, on a modern diesel, is idle it. But quite frankly, plus snow. I don't really much anymore, but the first 3 years of this truck's life I did, and you do some idling. Oh, where are we at? Oh, here we go. So, average mile per gallon, 12.3. I'll be honest with you guys, I drive pretty conservatively, and 12.3, if you're looking for fuel economy, don't buy an F-450. Even with the diesel, it doesn't get very good mileage. A lot of that is because of the 430 rear end ratio that's in this truck. So at 70 miles an hour, it's spinning well over 2,000 RPM. The truck is speed limited to 88 miles an hour. I would not want to go any faster in this truck, quite frankly. It's not a stable truck at 90 mile an hour. I average towing. It depends drastically on what trailer I'm towing. If I'm towing my 26,000 GVW gooseneck, I still get close to 9 to 9.5, depending on my speed. It is very dependent on speed. You start cresting over 65 and that mileage will drop precipitously. So I try to keep it around 68 is about where I cruise at. I think that's a good balance on the highway of getting where I need to be in a reasonable amount of time, and fuel mileage and safety. So like I say, average about 9 to 9.5 depending on weight, but the weight doesn't matter as much. It's the profile of the trailer. When I'm towing my 42 foot, 15,000, 16,000 pound fifth wheel trailer, I, in some cases, am lucky if I get 7.5 miles per gallon. That's into a headwind, of course. I can come close to 9 if I have a tailwind, average about 8, 8.5. So towing mileage, you're not going to get a whole lot worse with a gas engine. So if you had this truck with a 7.3 gas, you're going to get worse mileage, but it's not like it used to be 20 years ago when diesels got 50% better mileage than their gas counterparts did. Gas engine technology has come a long ways, where diesel engine technology has been hampered by emissions. It is what it is. So the emissions do some good things for us, but they also do some bad things. Fuel mileage, fuel economy is where it doesn't help us. So this truck is not deleted. This truck is factory stock in terms of every emissions component that it came with. Quite frankly, I intend to leave it that way. I found that I don't like the smell of diesel exhaust when I'm in my daily driver. And my toy trucks, absolutely, it's fun. I want black smoke. I want noise, and I want that experience. But in a 2019 that I drive 35,000 miles a year, I want it to smell good. So this is a commercial vehicle, as you can see from the name on the door, and I don't want any hassles in the future from EPA, DOT, you name it. So she is stock. I've had no problems with the. I have not even had a check engine light ever. I've had no emissions issues whatsoever with this truck. I can tell that my regens are more frequent now than they were when the truck was new. Obviously, that's a fact. I mean, DPF filters are meant to fill up over time. They trap contaminants, is what they do. So probably by the time I hit 200,000 miles, I will be replacing this DPF. It is what it is. And we're going to put a new one on, and we're going to continue to run it with the emissions, because that's what I have to do, and it's what I want to do. In terms of the rest of the interior, moving on from the engine, this truck is a base truck. You can see I have floor mats, but this is a rubber floor truck. It's got the cheap plasticky gray interior, not the most exciting thing in the world. It's a boring interior. It is cloth seats. These cloth seats are immaculate, because about 2 weeks ago I took off the vinyl seat covers that I've had on it since moment one of the truck. So they're in really good shape. I have replaced the driver's seat bottom one time, and you can see it is starting to, where my fat butt rolls over on the bolster, it's failing again. I got that directly from Ford for about $100 a couple years ago. So anyway, interior's in mint shape. So back to what I was saying though. This is an XL truck. This is a base truck, but it has the STX package. The STX package brings in the chrome grille, the chrome bumpers, and I think it brought in power windows, cruise, power locks, your basic creature comforts. Then I also got the truck with Sync 3. Obviously, Sync 3 has been surpassed by Sync 4, which is way cooler now, but Sync 3 is still a pretty impressive operating system, and it has the decent, I think it's a 7.8-inch screen. No dual zone climate control here. This is old school, manual, everything. Integrated trailer brake controller, push button 4-wheel drive. I believe that came in with the STX package. It does have the 400-watt inverter. I'll show you later. I don't use this because it doesn't do much of anything, so I do use the an inverter I installed later. It has been upfit right from day one with a snowplow. We'll talk about that some more. Other than that, it's pretty basic in terms of options. You can see in my now you can see my phone in my rearview mirror. There, you can see it does have a sliding rear window. That was an option. Other than that, there's not much going on in here. What I have added in the back seat, you can see seat covers make a difference, guys. That's this truck has had kids in the back on vacations, probably 30,000 miles worth of trips and vacations, and dogs, and those seats are still mint. I have added a Renogy 1,000-watt inverter to the truck. Cables are snaked through all the way to the front through a factory grommet in the firewall back to one of the batteries. And then what I did was I've got a power strip here. That plugs into, well, what do we have going on here? Power strip powers so that we can plug in whatever we want, quite frankly, but I use it primarily for Milwaukee chargers, as you can see. But what I did was I also put an outlet in this little box that I built up. So the box is steel framed. It bolts to the seat frame, so it's not going anywhere. It's self-supporting, so the mat can run underneath it. We can pull out the mat. It's kind of a pain in the butt. You actually have to loosen the box, but the mat will, full floor WeatherTech mat will pull out, so you can clean that every now and then. Yeah, I ran it to, I used the switch that Renogy sends you with the inverter so that I can do that and we're not running all the time. I also thought about running that switch to an upfitter switch as a double redundancy, but it's a lot of work. You can see it's a base truck again, so I don't have any kind of the organizers underneath here. So I made my own out of some 1x plywood, or not plywood, but some 1x6 lumber, and painted it black so it tucks in. So I can put my rain gear and my first aid kit, and my triangles and spare clothes and vests and all that good stuff that I use. So the factory inverter is in fact behind the rear seat over there. So we're not going to talk about the benefits of the Super Duty. I love the Super Duty and the Ford cabs in general. If you're looking at this truck, so do you, I'm sure. But awesome interior, awesome room. So in terms of upfits, what I run is a 40-gallon fuel tank. The pump on that tank is powered by one of the upfitter switches. So that way, again, it's redundancy. I put a longer hose on it and put the fill back here so it's easy to access. I've got a little chain rack that I built that I welded up for chains and binders. And then just a simple WeatherGuard toolbox. My fire extinguisher's back here. I like it easy access and it's not rolling around in the cab. And then I do pull gooseneck trailers quite often. So I leave those mounted in. That's why I also converted my fifth wheel trailer to a gooseneck. The one option I do love and use on the regular is the tailgate step. It is awesome. It has the handle. Quite frankly, I rarely get the handle out, but it is there. So super handy. I'm 6'4", and it's still a long ways up to get into this bed of this truck. So awesome, especially when you have a toolbox that's on a truck this tall. I can't really get to anything from the side. I keep a few things that I need super accessible far over on the driver's side here so I can get to them quick, but a lot of what I have to get into there on a semi-regular basis, I can't reach from the side of the truck. So this is key. So love that option. I would never order a truck again without that. So the bumper pull hitch on the F-450 for this year, I believe, was rated right at 20,000. I've never told nearly that much on the bumper. I think the most I've pulled is about 15, 16,000. I do run an LED light especially for plowing snow, but in general, for illuminating. It's nice for hooking up trailers and stuff like that. I run that really expensive Gen Y hitch. That thing is awesome. It's bulletproof. I've used it now, I think, for 3 years, something like that. And it is sweet for adjusting to different trailer heights. You can pull a pintle with it. You can pull a 2-inch trailer. You can pull a 2 5/16. And I pull a lot of different trailers on a regular basis, so that thing's key. This truck also had the camera, the camera system, I guess, if you will. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cameras around the truck. One in the tailgate, obviously. One up there in the third brake light. 2 on each mirror, or 1 on each mirror, and then 1 up front. My front camera died a long time ago. Doesn't work, but I don't really need it, so I don't care. My rear camera had 165,000 miles. The lens is clouded and just not what it used to be, so I can't see a lot out of it. It's not the clearest picture in the world. The camera's about $400. I'll probably replace it at some point, but for now I don't. But then that plug there is for an auxiliary camera that I have mounted on my fifth wheel camper. That is awesome. So a lot of those systems are wireless systems that you can buy aftermarket for campers or trailers in general. I don't have to buy one because I have it built in. The only problem is you can't access it at more than 5 miles an hour. So it's only good for reversing You can't use it as seeing what's behind you going down the expressway. So other than that, we're okay. I have gone through a couple different iterations of rear mud flaps. You will find if you buy an F-450, 550, whatever, that wide track front axle, even though it has those fenders, you will have a dirty truck. These trucks get dirty. They just send up a lot of road spray, guys. So yeah, and you can't take it through a car wash because it's 8'2" or whatever it is wide. So yeah, you're going to be hand washing a lot. Be ready for that. If you're a guy like me who's meticulous, you get very good at washing the truck. These are those expensive, I can't remember the brand. I'll put it in the video here, but I had my own mount that I had some welded brackets that came off the rear spring mounts, rear spring hangers, and then they tied in. They eventually rusted out, and I wasn't going to build those again, so I elected to buy this system. I think this was, $250, $300 all in for this set of flaps. They don't go quite as low as the old ones, which I don't like, but they are the right width. They're only 20 inch instead of 24 inch like my old ones were, so they don't cover any more than they need to. They do a good job, and I've had them on for a year now, and they seem to hold up really well, and the stainless hasn't gone cloudy or anything like that, so I'm happy with that. There's that 430 rear end that causes your mileage to not be that great. So let's talk about the problems with the F-450 Super Duty. So here are my negatives. 1, the aluminum wheels. I wish they were real Alcoas with like a Durabrite type finish. Ford uses, they're not Alcoas. If you think they are, you're dreaming. They're cheaper. Ford probably still wants $1,000 a wheel for them or more, but they have a coating essentially. My coating started to degrade starting around the valve stems at a very low mileage, like 60,000 miles. So by like 110, 120,000 miles, I pulled them off on one tire change, and I had the wheels polished. They look awesome. The problem with once you no longer have a coating is you have to polish on a regular basis. So I'm sure in other climates outside of the salt belt, that wouldn't be an issue. But so I love the wheels. They're awesome. They look amazing. They hold up. They're great. But be prepared for some maintenance after that coating goes away. It is what it is. So that's complaint number 1. Complaint number 2 is a minor one. It's just a fact of life with a dually, but it does suck that you can't go through a car wash. I do have a truck wash around me that I use, so there's that option to consider. I think it's about $18, but they do a great job. My next complaint is overall stability. So 19.5s are commercial tires. They're not a whole lot different than a 17.5 or a 22.5 or a 24.5. So they ride rough. They're part of the reason that this truck has an 88 mile an hour speed limiter. You can see inside there, those are Centromatic wheel balancers. I run them front and rear. I think I had about $400 or $450. There you can see them in there into the set, and was some of the best money I've ever spent on this truck. They make an amazing difference. So I would highly, highly recommend that you invest in some Centromatics if you're going to get one of these trucks. It's a commercial tire on a solid front axle, and they ride rough and they chatter and they dance on bumps, and that helps a lot. No matter how good you're balancing, your tire shop's going to balance your tires. Quality tires make a difference. A lot of guys want to put big knobby tires on. That's up to you. It's going to make your ride experience worse, quite frankly. It's going to make your tire wear worse. I run essentially a steer tire. This is my favorite tire. They are Firestone FS561s. That's what I run as steers on all my trucks, my work fleet. And then currently, I thought I would hate these because they are not a traction tire by any means. It's hard to see in the mud. But these are the Conti Hybrid HD3s. Continentals, obviously. And man, I really like them. They're not a high traction tire, but they are quiet and they wear really, really well. I'm getting a ton of miles out of this set. I will probably get a full 100,000 miles out of that set of tires. Whereas when I had some knobbier can't remember, they were Continentals as well. They were a traction drive, and they were loud, and they did not wear well. So, but that brings us to complaint number 4. Complaint number 4 is the front axle. So let's start in here. I'm going to show you something. So, by the way, payload rating, at least on mine, it's a pretty impressive payload rating, 4,968 pounds. So basically, give or take 5,000 pounds is what we've got available to us on this truck. But down here, let's turn so we can see that. And front gross axle weighting, 6,000 pounds. I can tell you, I have scaled this truck a number of times, and with my tools and me, and I think it was 1 or 2 other passengers in this truck, so kind of a normal load. I don't have an extensive amount of tools. I don't have anything super heavy in here, just to give you an idea. It was with a full tank of fuel, but you know, it's a little empty right now in the wintertime, but it's not got a lot in here. So with a normal, what I would call a normal everyday load, this axle runs at almost exactly 5,500 pounds. So we're within 500 pounds of gross vehicle weight rating with nothing on it. Of course, with the trailer, that gets pulled back a little bit. You're going to pull some weight off the front end. But the biggest concern I have is that when I put my snowplow on, I run a Boss, the heck is it called? EXT. So it's a wing blade that has hydraulic wings that come out. So it's an 8-foot blade when they're stowed. It's a 10-foot blade when they're winged out. It's a relatively heavy snowplow. It runs about 820 pounds, 850 pounds, somewhere in there. And obviously, it's cantilevered off the front. So not only does it put the full amount of its weight onto that front axle, but it actually pulls some additional weight off the rear. So it's easily probably putting 1,000 pounds additional. So we are 500 pounds over, I would guess, with the snowplow hanging off the front. And it's running essentially at capacity at all times, with or without the snowplow. And that's where the biggest costs in this truck have come in for me. I have done most of the ball joints. I think probably all of the ball joints. I just had to do outer wheel bearings. I've done tie rod ends numerous times. I've had to replace the full tie bar. And then I'm on my 3rd steering damper, which Ford did have a TSB and they replaced it for free. I've done that once myself and had a shop do it once. The Dana 60 is a great axle. The axle itself holds up okay, but the steering components do not. I think actually, to be honest with you, I would call this axle underbuilt for this application. Now, if you had a gas engine, it would probably be a little better because that engine transmission combo is going to weigh a couple 300 pounds less. That would help immensely, I'm sure. But with the diesel, and especially if you're going to hang a snowplow off the front of this or any other accessory, I think the axle's underrated. I think Ford needs to take a look at that and do something different. I doubt they will, but if you're going to use the truck, you're probably going to do front end work. So that's my other big complaint. To be honest with you, beyond that, I don't have a lot of complaints. This has been a great truck, guys. I have daily driven this truck for 5 years straight. Out of those 165,496 miles or whatever it was, I have put on all but, I would say, 200 miles of those. Other drivers who've used the truck here and there, but it's been me. So I know exactly what this truck does. I know how it handles. It has great traction in the winter in mud and snow. It is reliable. It starts every time. It goes down the road beautiful for what it is anyway. I mean, there are cars that are going to go down the road a whole lot better than an F-450. But for what it is, it handles and runs and operates, quite frankly, better than I expected. It is an awesome truck. Now, I will tell you that lighter duty trucks are going to eliminate some of those problems I talked about. You're not going to have, if you get an F-250 or an F-350, even if you get the diesel, you're going to have a 355 rear end instead of a 430. You're going to get significantly better fuel mileage. You're still going to have a Dana 60 up front, but it's not going to be the wide track. And I dare say that it's probably going to hold up a little better in those applications, as long as you're not hanging a snowplow off the front of it anyway, because that wide track is obviously pulling that whatever you want to call it, the hinge point farther out. So it's going to be harder on ball joints and tie rod ends. Just is what it is. Also heavier tires, even though they're aluminum wheels, they're heavy tires. So it's just more work on the front end. So if you don't need an F-450, if you don't need to pull, I don't know. Currently, I think they're rated more like closer to 40,000 pounds. This truck is rated for 32,000 pounds on the gooseneck, if I recall. It's either 32 or 34. So if you don't need to pull 30-some thousand pounds, I'd probably recommend not getting an F-450. You know, get something a little smaller, and it's probably going to do you proud. All of the modern diesel trucks from any of the big three handle 15 to 20,000 pound trailers really, really well. So tow within your capacity, but don't be afraid to tow up to your capacity and size your truck accordingly. If you want the stability of a dually, but you don't need to pull 30,000 pounds, get an F-350. It's probably gonna ride better and cost you less money in the long run. But if you need a truck that can pull 30-some thousand pounds and you don't want to go to a chassis cab, this is your baby. This is what you want. And let's talk briefly about that difference. So what you get when you get the F-450 pickup versus an F-450 or 550 that would be a chassis cab is you have wider frame rails at the back. So the chassis cabs are going to have 34-inch standard truck rails in terms of the width. So this is a little wider because it is built to accept the pickup bed. It is also derated to 14,000 pound GVW, whereas a standard F-450, I believe, is 16.5 or 16,000. So don't think that this truck can't technically handle that, but that's for registration purposes largely, and so they can still call it a pickup. I'm sure it's to do with federal DOT regulations. I don't want to get into that, but regardless, it is derated to 14,000 pound GVW. But the big one that you get is that you get the full horsepower of the 6.7 Powerstroke diesel. In the chassis cabs, that engine gets derated down to, I think, 365 horse. Don't quote me on that, but it's lower horse and lower torque. Not by a lot, but it's measurable. It's noticeable. I wanted the full power. And so this is what we got. In a perfect world, I think I'd have a hauler bed of some sort that would be more accessible. But to be honest with you, I love the look of the pickup bed on this truck. It looks cool. So all I'm saying is if you're shopping this truck, consider your needs and buy accordingly. Again, as I said at the beginning of the video, if I was going to buy another F-450, what would I get different? I'd get the same damn truck, quite frankly, but it would be probably a King Ranch with some nice heated and cooled leather seats and real remote start where I don't have to use the app on my phone, and Sync 4 with a big giant 14-inch screen or whatever it is. Things like power adjustable pedals for my wife. My wife is 5'1". She can drive this truck, but she hates it because of the manual seats. There's no up and down motion. So she can't get herself high enough. So basically she sits on a coat or a pillow. That would suck. Cloth seats suck. I hate them. So I want the leather. Beyond that, the rest of the options I don't really care that much about, because on the exterior, there's not much that changes. You still get the same aluminum wheels. You still get 19.5s. You're going to get power retractable steps, which I could care less about, but whatever. They come along with it. And you're going to get a sweet aluminum band on the tailgate that says King Ranch. Is all that worth the extra $30,000? It's probably not, but it's something that I would want if I did this truck again, and probably will in a couple years. So the other factor you need to consider, if you're looking at this as a daily driver, I would think twice about it. I love driving trucks. I drive trucks everywhere I go, but quite frankly, I am moving to a smaller car or SUV to use as a daily driver. Part of it's because I'm putting 35,000 miles a year on a really expensive truck, and I want it to last longer, so I want to slow down on the miles. But part of it is that this truck isn't super comfortable. It's big. It's hard to park. It's like 23 feet long. So it doesn't fit into parking spots very well. You can't go through a car wash. You can't, things like parking decks and things like that are virtually out of the question. And it kind of rides like a tank, It's a solid, it's got two solid axles. It's riding on heavy suspension. It's not the most comfortable thing in the world. With the trailer, it is pretty comfortable. You put a lot of weight on it, and it does ride really well on the highway especially. But it's just not the most comfortable thing in the world. So again, if you're looking at this as a daily driver, think long and hard about it. And if you want that real comfort, you might want to consider a different vehicle. And that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to run this for another 2 or 3 years, probably run it out to 250,000 miles, something like that. At that point, I probably will get another F-450, and it probably will be a King Ranch. But I'm going to daily drive something else in the meantime. But overall, my take, if you're shopping one of these trucks, it's been a great truck. It's been an amazing truck, quite frankly. I've had very few issues. I think Ford did a great job designing and building this truck. Super Duties do a damn good job of working hard. They're well-built trucks. I don't think you can go wrong with one. And if you truly need an F-450 for the towing capacity or the payload capacity, then by all means, I think you should shop one. Guys, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed my take on this truck, and I hope it might help you if you're shopping for one yourself. Y'all take care.